Good afternoon from the Elite Athlete Hotel here at the 2021 Virgin Money London Marathon, and welcome for our second press conference with our wheelchair athletes. Today we welcome 5 world-class athletes that are coming on to the stage in 2 groups. First up will be 2 of our greatest ever wheelchair athletes, 2-time London Marathon champion, world record holder and winner on Sunday of the Berlin Marathon, Manuela Schär. So welcome, and also welcome again one of our favourites, the werewolf himself, 6-time Paralympic champion, also 8-time winner of the London Marathon, David Weir. So these will be followed up on stage by the defending women's champion, Nikita, and then the men's champion from the last time it was held on the traditional course in 2019, Daniel Romanchuk, and the 4-time London Marathon winner, Tatyana McFadden. But before we begin, please can I mention a few housekeeping notes. Please, for those media online, submit your questions in the Zoom chat, and I will ask the media then to ask their questions to the athletes. Keep your camera on throughout and your microphone off, and obviously only turn your microphone on to ask the questions. So thank you very much for everyone joining us today. First, I think it would be great to ask our athletes how their preparation's gone. Manuela, a fantastic victory in Berlin. How does it feel to come literally fresh off that into London?
It feels great. It was a great warm-up for the series to start again, and I'm so excited to be back here. I didn't quite know how my form was in Berlin, because we just came back from Tokyo. That was really intense, and it was great to see that I actually had enough time to recover, and I'm excited for Sunday.
Well, we're delighted to have you here. David, obviously Paralympic blues maybe, but London's special to you. 22 consecutive London marathons. What keeps you coming back for more?
I just love the race. It's where I started as an 8-year-old, doing the mini marathons, and I don't think there's anyone else that's done 22 marathons in a row. So I'm pretty proud to be here for my 22nd marathon in a row. I've been lucky with injuries and stuff like that. I'm just motivated. I'm probably at the back end of my career at the moment, but I just love doing the marathons at the moment. And I think I'm still 3rd in the rankings. I haven't looked after Sunday, so I'll just keep plodding along until I feel I can't do any more.
A little bit more than plodding along, so that is some consistency and obviously longevity as well. But we're absolutely delighted that you've come back and you're on the start line again for Monday. So now we're opening up for some questions from the media in the room with us. So I think I've got directly behind me Tim from Athletics Weekly.
I was a bit unlucky last year. I changed a lot of things last year. I went on to hard gloves, which I haven't done. Hard gloves are, been around for a long time, but it took me a long time to develop the technique for it. So I had to learn a new technique to push my chair. So this year I feel I was a lot stronger on them. And I've actually, since the Paralympics, gone back into my old frame, which is a carbon chassis. Just because I felt I was losing a little bit of power through the chair because it was aluminium, and I feel the training's gone well in the last 2 weeks since I've been back in my old chair. And how many marathons do you think I'm going to do next? I don't want to put a label on it, to be honest. I'm just enjoying travelling and doing the marathons. I'm actually enjoying life at the moment, so I'll carry on until I feel I need to pack it in.
So do we think going back to your old frame might be the difference in those 2 seconds this year?
Yeah, I think so. But it's the old course. Last year, the course didn't really suit me because it's completely flat. And Brent is, I think, 60 kilos, and I'm probably nearly double his weight. So he was a lot quicker on that course, and it was the first time that I've beat Marcel in a few years. So it was nice to do that, but. Daniel and Marcel at the moment are on another level. They're from another universe, I think, at the moment. So it's going to be tough on Sunday, but that's why I'm here. I like challenges, and I got to push myself, and I love pushing myself to the limit.
I was going to say, you like a challenge, and you like it when it gets a bit tougher. So excited for Sunday. Another question from our media.
Yeah, first of all, David, you mentioned Marcel and Daniel there. Had a good duel last weekend in Berlin, and you'll be in the mix no doubt this weekend. What is it about those two that you think kind of gives them that edge that puts them at the front of the field so regularly?
Marcel's got a Ferrari of a chair, which seems to be helping him at the moment. But I think Marcel's in the prime age at the moment for racing. If you look back in 2012, I was 33. I think Marcel's 33, 34, is he?
5.
Yeah, 35. So I feel he's in his prime condition for wheelchair racing. And Daniel's just a freak of nature, I think. He's still learning. He's got amazing talent, speed, endurance. He can do everything on the track. So I just feel that, with time, Daniel's going to be someone to, he's going to be in front of a lot of people. I just feel Marcel's at his prime at the moment.
Thank you. Manuela, obviously, racing Berlin at the weekend, racing London on Sunday. What's your further marathon race schedule coming up? Is it as busy as this week?
Yes, it continues. I'll go back for just like 2 days at home, and then I'll fly to Boston, and then New York will be my last one.
So how do you manage training in between a busy race schedule? Is it tough, and obviously the different locations and obviously the current protocol in place just from country to country, is that tough and challenging?
Yeah, I think it's not really, you cannot really call it training. It's more like recovering and, moving and just being careful to recover for the next one. And I think the most difficult part is all the traveling and the time differences and the different food. And so you just have to be careful to not do too much and to recover for the next one.
And you get good at living out of a suitcase, I would have thought.
Yeah.
Tim, have you got another question?
Just both of you really. What do you make of crowds being back this week? What impact that can have on you, mentally and emotionally as well?
For me, it was nice actually doing the Paralympic marathon, and there was crowd on the streets. It wasn't, the stadium was pretty dead, and it was just nice to hear some people cheering. So I think there's going to be more crowd than ever because they haven't seen a marathon for a few years now. So it's just going to be awesome and electric and loud, and that's what I like. And that's what London's about.
Great. And another question from our media.
Manuela, with victory in Berlin, you kind of all but assured victory in Series 13 of the Alcohol Marathon race as well, which would be your third. Can you talk a little bit about what that would mean to you and the series in general, and how good it is to have it back?
Honestly, last weekend was so emotional because I knew that I missed marathon racing, but I didn't know how much I missed it. It was so amazing to be back in this marathon feeling. The whole city is in this marathon mood, and it was just so good to be back. And I'm so excited for Sunday to feel that energy again. And it was not easy without racing the past 2 years almost, and I had a great year in 2019, so there's always a big of a pressure to come back as strong as I left. And just the Paralympic Games and Berlin last weekend gave me that confidence. And I'm optimistic that I can finish as strong as I did in 2019.
So our question to the media online, if they do have any questions, then please put your hand up, obviously virtually, and or type in the chat function. But a question to you both. This is obviously a unique time in major marathons, given the schedule over the next few weeks and what's just gone. How special, how kind of different does that make it? I know we talked about obviously challenges of training, but it's definitely unique at the moment, and it looks like it might be the same for next year as well.
It's difficult for me. I'd like to have done all of them, but at my age, I don't think I can do all of them in a row. So, London's important to me, so I obviously picked London. And I always said to myself I would go back and do Boston one year, because the year I did it, I was a bit disappointed with my performance. And now it's falling in October. It feels better for me to prepare and at peak at the right point in October. So I'm happy to do these two, and then I've got New York in November, which is going to be challenging as well. But I prefer racing at this time of the year now, as I've got older. I think it's just a bit of a challenge over the winter as you get older. I think it's more the motivational, getting up and it's dark and it's cold and you're either in your garage or you're attempting to go out and it's nearly freezing. So I seem to pick it up as soon as the weather changes. So I'm glad the marathons have changed actually to autumn now.
For you, Manuela, will it be strange, or do you have any marathons planned for the spring?
I don't know yet. We don't know the schedule yet. So I think it's also a bit complicated these times just to travel. You need all the documents, and with every flight there's a risk of losing a chair or damaging a chair. And I just got back on Monday from Berlin, and my chair didn't make it home, so I just got it a few hours before I had to fly to London. So it's challenging, and I think I'll be happy when it's back to the old timetable.
We'll probably tell stories of what happened years in the future about what this period was like, and people probably won't believe us. So I think we've got one of our media online, Molly McWelly.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks. Question for David. I don't know if you saw the news that the BBC might lose broadcasting rights to the marathon in the years to come, and I wondered your reaction to that and how you think that might affect the visibility of the marathon if it's not on the BBC in the future.
So I don't know if you heard that, David, the importance of the London Marathon being on the BBC.
There's other channels, isn't there? Yeah, it will be a shame because it's been there, from day one, since the 80s. So, yeah, it will be a shame if they do lose the rights. But I'm sure someone will, take that up, because it's a great race, and it's a great opportunity to showcase the best athletes and fun runners and all the people that raise money for charity. So, yeah, it will be a loss if the BBC do lose it. But I'm sure there's other channels that will fight to host the London Marathon.
Thank you for that. Tim Hutchins online.
Hi, thanks, James. Manuela, just wondering how you decided to do Boston over Chicago, and because they are on consecutive days. I think Chicago's the Sunday after London, and then Boston's the next day. And did you consider doing both? I think
No.
Tatyana is doing both, having done Berlin as well. That'll be 3 in 8 days for her. Did you consider that?
No, I didn't. It was really the question to which one I would do, either Chicago or Boston, and the answer was just the extra day of rest, actually, from London to Boston.
Yeah, that would be some effort, wouldn't it? So we'll obviously ask Tatyana what a plan and schedule is to get through those marathons. So yeah, a busy enough schedule anyway. So thanks for that question, Tim. I think we've got Mike Henson on the line. I think you're muted, Mike. If you can unmute yourself. The joys of the 21st century online.
Hi there, is that better?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Good stuff, good stuff. There's a question for both of you, really. David talked a bit about Marcel's Schär, which I think was unveiled at the Paralympics. How much is technology a factor at the moment? Is there any question of fairness as well, with different athletes having access to different levels of technology?
So, David, how much is technology playing a part in wheelchair racing at the moment?
I don't really want to take it away from Marcel, because he's a fantastic athlete, and he probably would have won shed loads of medals in Tokyo anyway. But with his performances, you can see that he's got them extra gains from having a a Ferrari of a chair. Yeah, and I think the technology is moving forward, and that's what I want to see. I don't want it to stop because athletes can't get the options to get them chairs. We just have to try and improve and get better. But yeah, obviously the chair does make a massive difference. Obviously he's done a lot of stuff in the wind tunnel and tested it for the last 4 years. But yeah, I'm happy to see it because I love seeing our sport improve and get faster and get better.
And it's interesting, you actually talked about going back in your kind of technology, kind of to previous chairs, because it's not always the chair and the athlete, it has to be the right fit, doesn't it? So, exactly. Manuela, the same question to you. Do you obviously think about technology of what other athletes have, or is it very much obviously focused on what you have, and are you happy obviously with the developments in technology?
I think it's very important that we have that same technology as every other sport has. So we had this discussion after the Paralympics in Tokyo in Switzerland about whether it's good for the sport or not. And I think it's just logical that every sport is moving forward, and so is wheelchair racing.
Yeah, technology doesn't stand still, and neither does our sport. So, David, at the weekend, obviously, what makes London Marathon special is the crowds and the other people taking part. Obviously, last year, very different. But how great will it be to have that noise on the street? And I know we keep talking about that 2 seconds, but could those cheers en route and down the mile, could that play a part in getting you back on that top spot?
It could be. I've just got to race to the best of my ability. Yeah, the crowd are great. They do push you along, especially if you're struggling at certain parts of the race. You don't really get the crowd in any other marathon like that, so it's always special to race in London, and I think that's what brings me back, because of the crowd along the streets from start to finish.
And Manuela, obviously Berlin, great support. It looked fantastic, watching it, and there was a real sense of kind of joy and pride for people to be back out there cheering. Did that help en route, and was that part of the motivation? And obviously crossing that line first to hear that cheer, was that great to hear that again?
Yeah, I can't wait. It makes that whole experience of doing a marathon perfect, and yeah, it goes together, like doing a marathon and the crowd and the atmosphere, so I can't wait.
So in relation to your between now and Sunday, is it a question of just rest and recover, just obviously a little bit of work on the rollers, David?
Yeah, just a little bit of I did my last sort of road session this morning in Richmond Park. It was quite windy in there today actually. Just ticking over really until Sunday.
Manuela, the same for you, just a bit of R&R before the weekend?
Exactly. I hope the weather's staying dry, and if not, I have my rollers here, so yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us on stage, David and Manuela. We wish you all the very best for Sunday. We'll have a short break, and we'll be back with the second part of our wheelchair elite press conference with Nikita, Tatyana and Daniel on stage shortly. But again, thank you, David. Thank you, Manuela. And again, good luck for Sunday. Well, welcome back to the second part of our Wheelchair Elite press conference, and I'm delighted to be joined up on stage by four-time London Marathon champion Tatyana McFadden. In the centre, our defending women's champion Nikita Boer, and on the right of us as we look out towards them, the champion from 2019 on the traditional course, Daniel Romanchuk. So welcome back to London. Delighted to see you here. First question to Nikita. Welcome back. I remember how delighted you were on the Monday after your victory last year. How good does it feel to be back in London again to defend your title?
It feels really good. Yeah, I really like to go on Sunday for the marathon.
Great, and we're delighted you're back, and after a successful summer as well, with that Paralympic medal. Has preparations gone well for this defence?
Yes, preparations are really good.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, we're looking forward to you being on the streets of London. So, Tatyana, you love coming back to London, or I like to think you love coming back to London. Is it great to be back again?
It is really great to be back. I am so thankful that London Marathon brought me back. I didn't come last year, and I was sad too, of course, but I love the course and I love the competition, and it's just so great to be back competing again. I really, really missed that, and so I'm really looking forward to be back on the streets and doing this marathon again.
Well, we're delighted you're here.
Thank
We'll
you.
come on to later your busy schedule coming up, so that everyone's fascinated to hear about. So, and someone that we missed last year as well, but we're delighted he's back. Daniel, thanks for joining us again. Obviously, last year would have maybe been some frustration that you couldn't come back, but the winner last time, it was on the traditional course. Does it feel good to be on British soil again?
Oh, it's great to be back and just racing with everyone again. And yeah, absolutely looking forward to the race on Sunday.
Well, we're delighted you're back, and the same with you, Tatyana. So, question, Tim, do you have a question?
Yeah, firstly, Tatyana, obviously, between 2013 and 2016, you were almost pretty much unbeatable. Then, of course, the illness. How do you reflect on that to where you are now back in London?
Yeah, it's been a really tough 5-year journey, especially with the health. And I got diagnosed with a blood clotting disorder in 2017. And so from April, after my last surgery, which didn't work out, and I had other therapeutic therapies that I had to go through, it was a 20-month recovery. So in that time period, I just had to heal, get back into that racing chair, and slowly start training again. So I was quite far behind compared to all the other elite athletes. And mentally, it was really hard to stay in because I thought I was going to lose what I love so much. And so it was a testament to myself and to my love for the sport, and just, that will to get back into training, which I learned so much. I did the NHK film for Japan, and they did a scan of my brain, a CT scan, and it showed that the part of the will part of your brain, mine was 1% bigger than the average person. And so I knew that I could get back into racing. And so I was really happy to make the team in Tokyo, and I was really happy to come home with a silver and gold and bronze. And just to be competing in marathons again, even more thrilled. And I had a really great race in Berlin. I met most of my goals, which I was really proud of. And I felt like I started for the first time racing like myself. And that makes me really happy. And so I'm looking forward to a great race on Sunday. And it's just great to be back doing what I love, and still, in that competitive stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great answer. So, another question from the floor.
First of all, Tatyana, congratulations. A long period of that race where you were with Manuela for a long portion of it, which is perhaps a sign of where you're kind of getting back to your old self. What do you think it's going to take to close the last piece of that gap, so that you're battling it out on the home straight next time?
What will it take? That's a good question. Manuela is very strong, and so I think it would just take just a little bit more time. I mean, having the pandemic last year, I mean, we're still in it, but not having competitions, I didn't know where I was. And so that made it really challenging for Tokyo, at least for me, because I'm an athlete that thrives on competition. Just knowing my own personal goals and where I stand and what I need to work on. And so I learned a lot from Berlin, and hopefully I can use what I learned in Berlin and use it in London. Hopefully the weather is going to be okay. That plays a huge factor for us as well. And so I would have to kind of change maybe strategy if it's going to be raining really, really heavily, and see what I can do. I'm not the strongest in the rain, but so I'll have to probably change some things up.
Thank you. Talking about being strongest in the rain, Nikita, last year, the weather was challenging to say the least. Looks like there may be a little bit of rain on the horizon. Are you praying to the weather gods for similar weather to last year?
No, I don't like the rain. For me, the sun is better, and we did a lot of rain trainings for pre-camp for Tokyo. And yeah, I know I can go really fast in the rain, but it's better with sun and high temperature.
Well, for someone that doesn't like the rain, you seem to do pretty well last year. So it'll be interesting to see what the weather forecast does pan out. What it looks like today in the UK doesn't necessarily mean what it's going to be like on Sunday. So another question from the floor.
Question for Daniel. Congratulations at the weekend. Again, similar to Tatyana, how can you make up that gap that Marcel had over you at the weekend on the streets of London on Sunday?
Well, yeah. So that's. I think there are a few different ways. Short term, this is a completely different course. It's got a lot more turns in it, and so that might play a factor in general strategy. I think long term, I'm constantly talking to Adam, and let's try and tweak this here and change that. And so I think we'll see how things are going forward.
Great, and I think we can go to one of our online media. Tim Hutchins, are you there, Tim?
I am, James, yes, sorry. I just wanted to ask Tatyana, she said that on Sunday in Berlin she felt better than at any point. I think you were saying this, Tatyana, that you felt better than at any point since your blood clot issues in 2017. Is that the case? Do you feel you're still coming up from the depths of what was a very tough period after those blood clots? And secondly, you said you learned a lot on Sunday in Berlin. Can you be more specific? What did you learn?
Yeah, I think as in terms of feeling like myself, I mean, in 2017, when I was diagnosed, I still did relatively well. I came in second into the Abbott World Majors, and I think I just put my body through so much that it just took a lot more time. And also with the pandemic and it was tough mentally, I think, trying to get to Tokyo, whether if the Paralympics would happen or not happen. So that was mentally tough. I think just both were mentally challenging, and so that's why I think I finally felt like, okay, the pressure is sort of like off, and it's time to have fun again and just really enjoy the ride and use the marathons this year to really learn. And what I learned about a lot in myself in Berlin is playing around sort of with my seating position, because Manuela is really good at coasting downhill, one of the best in the world. And so that took me a lot of time to fix what's good for me and how I can keep up, and on the straightaways as well, being really more consistent. She's very consistent and very good. And so those were just some of the smaller goals, and being better at turns as well. So yeah, that was really good.
I think sometimes people forget the tactical nature of wheelchair racing. It's tactics for 2 hours or just less than 2 hours, isn't it? So fascinating to watch. So Nikita, your win 12 months ago, how much confidence has that given you since that victory?
Yeah, a lot of confidence. I know now what I can do, and I still have to do more marathons to know for tactics and to race with the big girls for me. But I think it gives me a lot of confidence. Also, the bronze medal in Tokyo.
And where do you go from after London? What's your marathon schedule look like? Because we're going to get on that with Tatyana and also Daniel as well, because it's a busy period for wheelchair racing on the marathon circuit right now.
I only gonna do New York after London, and then I have holidays.
And then have some holidays. Have a nice Christmas holiday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Daniel, which because obviously the US marathons, two of them are within a very close proximity. Which one are you opting to do, or are you doing one of them?
I will be doing both.
You're doing both as well. That's the question we wanted to ask, because we knew Tatyana was. So in terms of your preparation, obviously, Berlin to London, and then, obviously that Chicago and Boston festival of wheelchair racing. How do you prepare for that?
We really don't know. This really hasn't happened before. The closest races have ever been is basically a week. And so really just, try and refuel and, get as much sleep as I can, and just kind of have to see what happens.
And make sure you get on the correct flight out of the city there.
Yep.
So yeah, that's going to be important. So Tatyana, obviously that 1% you talked about, that you're different to the average person. You talked about earlier about getting better, and as Tim said, you talked about Berlin. You were kind of really feeling getting back to your previous self. Does that give you the excitement to go back on the streets, and especially for you both, obviously being back on two major marathons in the US in a few days of each other?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We're getting to, I love flatter courses like London, but I also love the hillier courses. So I'm excited to do the American 3, and I'm excited to do Boston and London back to back. This is the first time that this is the first time we'll ever have this, like marathons back to back like this. And I thought, let's do some history here. Let's see what I can do. And I'm up for the challenge. And doing Chicago, getting on the plane the same day is going to be really challenging, but luckily I'm going to have a lot of help along the way, which is great. People to kind of help me pack up and get situated and fuel up with eating and be at the next spot. So when I arrive, they will help. And so having a team behind the team essentially is going to be really important for this challenge. But like I said, I will never take racing for granted ever again, and being so busy ever again. And so I'm really looking forward to the rest of the series.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating chatting to you both about that experience, about the recovery, about the travel. And then are you both at New York, and is that the end of the season, as they say?
End of the series. So
end of the series, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So a bit of rest and recovery. So we had David on stage before you that's done 22 consecutive London marathons. How impressive is that, in terms of longevity, and obviously not just turning up, but he was within 2 seconds of the victory last year.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and that's good for the sport. I mean, having someone like David doing 22 consecutive Londons, that's looking really good for our future, for me as well, and knowing that you can still do it and that you can still stay in the game, and it's really quite amazing. And that's something, that's a challenge that as a woman I like to be like, oh well, I want to see if I can do 22 or maybe even more. So it's cool to have David doing that, and just making the level even higher here in London.
So Daniel, obviously the crowd might be cheering for David a little bit on Sunday. How great is it going to be back in front of, obviously a big crowd? You obviously experienced that in London 2019. How special is that? And obviously to push into first place over the line. What's that noise like as you cross that line in first?
It's kind of hard for me to say. A lot of the times I'm really just concentrating on what's going on in the race. But yeah, the crowds are just incredible here. It's just it's amazing. Once I'm able to catch my breath, it's really nothing else like it.
Could
Sorry,
hardly
Tim.
hear. Could hardly hear you then, James. But
Sorry,
thanks.
Tim, you've got another question. Sorry.
I do, yeah. Just going back to the issue that was discussed earlier about chair technology, and it strikes me there's quite significant parallels with obviously the advances in shoe technology of this last 2 or 3 years, which is great. And the shoes cost $200-300, and all the world's elite athletes have access to them pretty much, whether they have to go out and buy a pair or are given them. But that's not the case with a wheelchair that costs many thousands of dollars. And I'm just wondering if the guys on stage are aware of any funding or programs that enable the financing required to buy decent wheelchairs, getting to a wider selection of athletes or would-be elite athletes on the world scene. In other words, this relatively small group of super elite wheelchair racers at the moment on the global scene could maybe be much bigger if more people could get hold of great racing wheelchairs. But that's much tougher than getting hold of a pair of shoes that cost a couple $100.
It's definitely an issue because you're looking at some chairs are $40,000 to get, and then some are 25, and especially if you look at payments in the sports in the past, and if you look at the pandemic, no one can right now. It's very hard to afford something like that. And then when you talk about new athletes coming onto the sport and wanting to join marathons, they're going to look and say, how is that even possible? How I am new, I cannot afford that racing chair. And so my worry is that people are going to turn away from marathons in the future. And I've actually worked on a private project and hopefully continue to work on that private project in North Carolina, developing a future model that would be a little bit more affordable, hopefully, especially in the U.S. as we're gearing up for our LA games. And so I want that to be more costly effective and more available, especially to the U.S. athletes, because we're having a little bit of a harder time to get products, overseas, especially during the pandemic. And it does, I think, make a difference, with aerodynamics can be such a role in play, even though I still do believe that seating position is just as important. So yeah, it is a little bit of a slight issue right now, and so hopefully we can close the gap.
Nikita, do you worry about technology in the sport, or is it something that you again try and focus on your own performances?
No, I think the technology is really important, and in the Netherlands we work a lot with it, and we have some mechanics who's looking at it. But yeah, for just to begin, if you begin with the sport and start with the sport, then the chairs are so expensive, and in the Netherlands you get just a little funding from the city where you live, but that's never enough to get the expensive chairs and all the technology what the athletes have.
And Daniel, yourself, you've obviously made huge strides over the last few years. Has technology played a role in that? David actually talked about on the stage previously. He's actually going to go back to his old chair for Sunday. So is technology something that that you enjoy the changes in technology?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that it's a vital part to progressing the sport. And I think, like Tatyana kind of touched on a little bit, just trying to make it more widely available it's going to be great for the sport. I've actually been working on a degree in computer-aided design, and so I've done a little bit of design work, maybe kind of help with some design of a chair in the future. But yeah, it's exciting to see where it's going to go.
Well, we look forward to seeing the Romanchuk chair. That would be one to see. So I think that concludes our press conference. But without further ado to say thank you so much, Tatyana, Nikita. Thank you, Daniel. We wish you all the best for the Virgin Money London Marathon on Sunday. Huge crowds are going to be out there cheering you on. And we will be back tomorrow at 11 o'clock for the Elite Women's Press Conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.